Under a sun that burned like judgment itself, the sea exploded. Cannon fire ripped across the water, splintering a merchant vessel's hull as flames climbed its sails. Sailors screamed, wood cracked, smoke swallowed the sky. Out of the blazing glare emerged a black ship, its hull darker than shadow, its sails scorched gold at the edges, as if the sun itself had branded them. The ship cut through fire and foam without slowing, silent except for the thunder of its guns. On the burning deck of the merchant ship, a young woman ran. She vaulted over fallen rigging, dark curls whipping behind her, brown skin streaked with soot and red paint from a shattered cargo crate. Her breath came sharp and fast, heart hammering as another cannonball tore through the stern. She didn't look back. She knew what followed. They always came when the sun stood highest. A grappling hook slammed into the rail, then another. Figures swarmed over the side, men who moved wrong, too fast, their skin marked with sun-etched scars that glowed faintly gold. Their eyes reflected the blazing sky like polished metal. Cursed pirates. The woman reached the bow just as a hand closed around her wrist. She screamed and spun, driving her elbow into the attacker's jaw. He barely reacted. His lips peeled back in a grin that showed teeth dusted with gold paint. "Midday," he rasped. "Perfect." A blade flashed toward her, and a gunshot cracked the air. The pirate's head snapped back as red paint burst across his face. He toppled over the rail and vanished into the sea. A man stood near the fallen mast, smoke curling from the pistol in his hand. He wore a weathered coat stitched with charms and sun-faded symbols, a wide-brimmed hat pulled low over sharp eyes. His skin was deep brown, his face cut with a scar that curved like a crescent beneath one eye. He smiled like trouble. "Running toward the fire usually gets you burned. Running with me might keep you alive." She didn't hesitate. She grabbed his hand. That was how the legend began. Hours earlier, before the sun turned cruel and the sea ran red with paint, the port city of Calypso Reach basked in heat and music. Drums thudded along the docks, traders shouted, gulls wheeled overhead, and Amara Nyong'o stood on the edge of the pier, staring at the horizon like it owed her something. She had grown up here, daughter of a shipwright from the western coast of Africa who'd crossed oceans chasing better tides, and a healer from the Korean peninsula who'd learned the language of roots and stars. Amara carried both worlds in her blood. She also carried a restlessness that never slept. Today it felt sharper. "Don't wander," her mother had warned that morning. "The sun is dangerous." Amara smiled then, the way she always did. She always smiled when she was about to disobey. The trouble arrived on a tide that didn't belong. The black ship appeared just before noon, its silhouette cutting the horizon cleanly in half. No flag flew from its mast, no bells rang. The harbor fell quiet, as if the sea itself had drawn a breath. Old men crossed themselves, dock hands backed away. Someone whispered, "The Sunbound." That name moved faster than fear. The Sunbound was a ship sailors swore only sailed when the sun stood highest, a ship crewed by men who couldn't die by blade or bullet while daylight ruled the sky, a ship hunting something stolen long ago. Amara felt it then, the pull, like the sun had turned its gaze on her alone. Cannons roared. Panic exploded across the docks. People ran, crates shattered, fire bloomed. And in the chaos, the governor's guards dragged a heavy chest toward the fort, gold spilling from its broken lock. Amara saw the markings burned into the wood. Sun sigils. Her pulse spiked. She knew those symbols. Her mother had drawn them once, trembling before burning the parchment and swearing Amara to silence. That chest never reached the fort. The first wave of pirates hit the docks like a storm of blades and heat. Swords rang, muskets fired, guards fell. The pirates didn't bleed, not truly. Red paint streaked their skin, but no wounds slowed them. They laughed as steel passed through them like memory. Amara ran straight into the madness. She didn't know why, only that if she didn't, something worse would happen. She reached the chest as two pirates closed in, their shadows sharp beneath the blazing sun. She grabbed the lid, yanked it open, and froze. Inside lay gold coins etched with the same sun symbols, and beneath, wrapped in silk, a medallion pulsing faintly with heat. A voice behind her drawled, "That's a dangerous thing to touch." She turned to see the rogue captain for the first time. He stood relaxed amid chaos, as if the fight bent around him. Dark eyes measured her quickly, not with hunger or fear, but recognition. "What is it?" she demanded. "Trouble," he said, "and they'll tear this city apart to get it." A pirate lunged. The captain moved faster than thought, blade flashing, knocking the attacker aside with a precise strike that sent him sprawling. Another came, then another. Escalation came hard and fast. The captain grabbed Amara's wrist. "You want answers or ashes?" She chose answers. They ran. By the time they reached the merchant vessel, Calypso Reach burned behind them. The black ship gave chase, cannons booming. The sun climbed higher, brighter, crueler. On deck, Amara learned how fast destiny could move. The merchant ship tried to flee. It failed. And now, as fire consumed the deck and cursed pirates swarmed aboard, the rogue captain fought like a man already dead. His blade sang, his pistol barked. He moved Amara behind him without ever looking back. "Name," he snapped between strikes. "Amara." "Good," he said. "If we live, remember mine." She didn't get the chance to ask. The pirates pressed closer, too many, too strong in daylight. A horn sounded from the black ship. The cursed crew pulled back in unison, retreating with an eerie discipline. The sun dipped behind a passing cloud. For half a heartbeat, the glow on their skin flickered. The captain noticed. "Jump," he told Amara. "What?" "Now." They leapt as the merchant ship exploded behind them, fire and debris crashing into the sea. Cold swallowed Amara whole. Salt burned her lungs. Strong arms dragged her upward. They surfaced beside a small, fast sloop hidden in the smoke. The captain hauled her aboard. The sails snapped open. They fled as the cloud passed and sunlight returned. Too late. The black ship did not follow. Silence fell, broken only by Amara's ragged breathing. She stared at the captain, soaked, shaking. "You stole something from them." "No," he said quietly. "You did." He nodded at her clenched fist. She looked down. The medallion still burned in her palm. Far behind them, on the deck of the black ship, the cursed crew gathered. At their center stood their captain, tall, still, his face half-shadowed by the sun. He smiled. "Find her, before sunset." The sloop cut across the water like a blade, its narrow hull skimming waves as if afraid to touch them. The wind snapped the sail hard enough to scream, and Amara clung to the rail, coughing salt from her lungs while the medallion burned hot against her chest. The rogue captain stood at the helm, steady as stone. Sunlight washed over him, turning the scar beneath his eye pale and sharp. He didn't look back. He didn't need to. Behind them, the black ship shifted. It didn't give chase, not yet. Instead, it turned slowly, deliberately, like a predator deciding when to strike. Its sails caught the sun and flared gold, the markings along the canvas glowing brighter with every passing second. Amara felt it in her bones. "They're waiting," she said hoarsely. The captain's jaw tightened. "They always do." The sea exploded without warning. A cannonball slammed into the water just off their port side, throwing up a wall of spray that drenched them both. The sloop rocked violently. Amara screamed as she nearly lost her footing. The black ship fired again. "Get below!" the captain shouted. Another shot tore through the waves, closer this time. The cursed crew didn't need to hit the sloop. They only needed to hurt it. The captain spun the wheel hard. The sloop veered, narrowly missing a floating mast from the destroyed merchant vessel. Smoke still hung thick over the water, turning the sun into a red-hot smear in the sky. Amara felt it in her bones. Amara scrambled toward the hatch, but froze. A shape rose from the sea. A pirate hauled himself onto the stern, water streaming from his coat. His skin shimmered unnaturally under the sun, golden scars glowing bright. Red paint streaked his chest, but no wound slowed him. He smiled at her with teeth too white. He lunged. Amara grabbed a fallen oar and swung with everything she had. It cracked against his shoulder. He barely flinched. The captain fired from the helm. The shot punched through the pirate's torso in a burst of red paint. He staggered, but didn't fall. "Sun still up?" the captain muttered. The pirate reached for Amara again. She screamed and drove the medallion burning into his chest. Light erupted. The pirate howled as if the sun itself had stabbed him. His body convulsed, then collapsed backward into the sea, smoke rising where he vanished beneath the waves. Silence crashed down, broken only by the sloop's groan. Amara stared at her shaking hands. "What did I just do?" The captain finally looked at her. "That," he said slowly, "is why they want you alive." They didn't get a moment to breathe. The black ship surged forward at last, closing the distance with terrifying speed. Its hull cut the water unnaturally smooth, as if waves parted willingly before it. The captain cursed under his breath. "Hold on." He turned the sloop straight toward a line of jagged rocks ahead, an island chain that rose sharp and unforgiving from the sea. Amara's eyes widened. "You're going to crash us." "Only if they follow." The black ship fired again. The cannonball tore through the sloop's sail, shredding canvas. The mast shuddered. The captain didn't slow. They shot between two towering rocks with inches to spare. The sloop scraped stone, wood screaming, but stayed afloat. The black ship followed. Too close. A massive wave surged as its hull entered the narrow passage. The rocks closed in. The sun glare bounced wildly off stone and water. Then, impact. The black ship's side slammed against rock. Wood splintered. The crushed vessel roared like an injured beast. The captain seized the moment. He swung the sloop hard, darting into a hidden cove beyond the rocks. Dense jungle swallowed the shoreline. They vanished into shadow. For a heartbeat, Amara thought they'd escaped. Then the sun shifted. A cloud passed overhead. Light dimmed. The water around the cove darkened, and Amara felt the air change. Cooler, heavier, wrong. The captain froze. "Down," he whispered. Figures rose from the water all around them. The cursed pirates hauled themselves onto rocks and roots, their golden scars fading as sunlight weakened. Their skin changed, graying, cracking, turning brittle. Red paint flaked from them like dried blood. They were becoming something else. One stumbled, his arm shattering as it struck stone. He screamed, not in rage, but in agony. Amara gasped. "They're mortal," the captain finished. "For now." He drew his sword and leapt from the sloop. The fight was brutal and fast. Steel rang, bones broke. Pirates fell, finally bleeding real wounds as the curse loosened its grip. Amara grabbed a dopped dagger and slashed wildly when one lunged at her, shock tearing through her hands as warm blood splashed her hands. She didn't have time to process it. More pirates poured in from the water. The captain fought like a storm, precise, ruthless, never wasting a move. But even mortal, they outnumbered him. A blade slipped past his guard and sliced his arm. He hissed, blood blooming bright. Amara screamed his name before she even realized she knew it. He looked at her sharply. "Stay back." She didn't. She slammed the medallion against another pirate's chest. Light flared again, brighter this time, knocking him flat. The medallion burned so hot she nearly dropped it. The pirates hesitated. Fear flickered across their faces. From the mouth of the cove, a figure stepped into view. Their captain. He moved slowly, deliberately, boots crunching over stone. His coat was immaculate despite the fight. His skin bore the same sun-scorched markings, but darker, deeper, etched like brands. His eyes locked on Amara. Recognition. Interesting. Very interesting. The cloud thinned. Sunlight crept back. The pirate's wounds began to close. The cursed captain smiled wider. "Fall back," he ordered. The crew obeyed instantly, retreating into the sea as sunlight reclaimed them. The cursed captain lingered a moment longer, eyes never leaving Amara. "That trinket doesn't belong to you. Neither does your fate." Then he turned and vanished beneath the waves. The sun blazed again. The jungle fell silent. Amara collapsed to her knees, shaking. The rogue captain dropped beside her, breathing hard, blood dripping from his arm. He tore a strip from his shirt and bound the wound with practiced ease. "You should have run," he said quietly. She looked up at him, eyes fierce despite the fear. "So should you." He laughed once, short and surprised. For the first time since meeting him, she saw something crack through his composure. They hid in the jungle until dusk. As the sun sank, the sea beyond the cove grew eerily still. No black sails appeared, no cannons fired. Only when night fully fell did the captain speak again. "My name is Jang Sun-woo, once." She nodded. "Amara Nyong'o." He met her gaze steadily. "You're carrying the Sun Heart, a relic stolen decades ago. It binds that crew to daylight and rots them at night. And you," she asked, "what are you to them?" His eyes darkened. "Their biggest mistake." A branch snapped nearby. They both turned instantly. From deeper in the jungle, a silhouette watched them, still, silent, armed, and smiling. The figure stepped out of the shadows with deliberate calm, boots crunching softly against leaves damp with evening mist. Moonlight filtered through the canopy, catching on the edge of a curved blade at his side. He was young, too young for the hardness in his eyes, and dressed like a trader, not a pirate, but the way he carried himself told another story. Jang Sun-woo shifted instantly, placing himself half a step in front of Amara. His sword rose just enough to warn without provoking. "Easy," the stranger said, lifting both hands slowly. "If I meant you harm, you'd already be bleeding." Amara tightened her grip on the medallion. It pulsed faintly now, warm, but no longer burning. "You were watching us?" "Yes," the stranger replied without shame, "because cursed ships don't come sniffing around empty coves without reason." Sun-woo's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" The man hesitated, then smiled thinly. "Someone who knows when to pick the winning side." That was when the jungle exploded with sound. A horn blared from the sea, low, mournful, vibrating through bone and water alike. Birds shrieked and scattered. The calm shattered. Sun-woo swore. They shouldn't be moving this fast after sunset. The stranger's smile vanished. They've found another way. Fire bloomed beyond the cove. Torches flared along the shoreline as boats slid silently onto the sand, dozens of them. The cursed crew moved with terrifying coordination, spreading outward, surrounding the jungle in a tightening noose. Amara's breath hitched. "They're trapping us." "They're hunting you," Sun-woo corrected, "and they brought help." From the trees behind them came shouts, human voices. Armed men in mismatched coats and stolen armor emerged, blades drawn, eyes gleaming with greed rather than gold-scorched madness. Mercenaries. The stranger cursed under his breath. They hired the port scum. Clever. Sun-woo turned sharply. "You knew this would happen." "I suspected, didn't think it'd be this soon." Amara felt anger flare hotter than fear. "You led them to us." "I followed you," he snapped back. "There's a difference." Steel rang as the first mercenary lunged. Sun-woo met him head-on, sword flashing. The clash was vicious and fast. Another attacker rushed Amara. She dodged instinctively, slashing with the dagger she still held. It bit into flesh. The man screamed and went down. Her hands shook, but she didn't freeze. The jungle became chaos. Cursed pirates surged from the shadows, their skin half lit by torchlight, eyes glowing faintly gold even in darkness. They weren't fully mortal yet, not fully invincible either, a terrible in-between. Sun Wu fought like he was born for this terrain, using roots and trees to his advantage, striking fast and vanishing, but there were too many. The stranger fought too, surprisingly well. His blade moved with practiced precision, cutting down 2 men before Amara even realized he'd moved. "Left!" he shouted. She ducked just as a blade whistled past her head. The medallion flared briefly, reacting to the cursed pirate who stumbled back, hissing. They can still feel it, even at night. Sun Wu nodded grimly. The sun heart's waking up. A roar echoed through the jungle. The cursed captain emerged from the tree line, torchlight dancing across his branded skin. His coat hung open, revealing scars etched like molten lines across his chest. He smiled as if stepping onto a stage prepared just for him. "There you are," he called. "I was beginning to think you'd slipped through my fingers." Sun Wu's expression hardened. "You never could finish what you started." The cursed captain's eyes flicked to him, amused. "And you never learned to stop interfering." Amara's pulse thundered. "You know each other." "Oh, very well," the cursed captain said. "We share history." He raised a hand. The mercenaries fell back instantly, forming a loose ring. The cursed pirates stepped forward instead. "Bring me the girl, alive." They charged. Sun Wu grabbed Amara's wrist. "Run, towards the river." "What about you?" "I'll catch up." She hesitated for a half-second too long. The stranger shoved her forward. "Go." She ran. Branches tore at her clothes as she sprinted blindly through darkness, heart slamming, breath burning. Behind her, steel rang and men shouted. Something crashed through the underbrush with inhuman speed. She burst through the trees onto a narrow riverbank just as a hand closed around her ankle. She screamed and kicked wildly. The cursed pirate hissed as the medallion flared, loosening his grip just enough for her to twist free and plunge into the river. Cold swallowed her again. She surfaced downstream, coughing, barely able to see. Moonlight rippled across black water. She dragged herself onto the opposite bank, collapsing against wet stones. For a moment, there was nothing but the rush of water. Then, footsteps. Sun Wu staggered out of the trees, blood dark against his sleeve. He leaned heavily against a trunk, chest heaving. "You're bleeding," she said, scrambling up. "Still alive, that's a win." Before she could respond, the stranger emerged as well, uninjured, breathing hard. "They're regrouping. We won't outrun them on foot." Sun Wu looked at the river, then at Amara. He looked at Amara. "We don't have to." He whistled sharply. From the darkness downstream came the soft creak of wood. A boat drifted into view, small, narrow, hidden beneath reeds. Sun Wu vaulted into it without explanation and held out a hand. Amara took it. They shoved off just as shouts erupted behind them. Arrows hissed through the air. One struck the water inches from Amara's arm. The river carried them swiftly, twisting and narrowing until jungle gave way to open marshland. The moon climbed higher. The cursed pirates' shouts faded. Only when they reached the open sea did Sun Wu finally slow the boat. Amara collapsed against the side, exhausted. "They won't stop." "No," Sun Wu agreed, "because at dawn they're gods again." The stranger studied the medallion glowing faintly against her chest. "And you're the only thing standing between them and daylight forever." She looked up sharply. "What does that mean?" He met her gaze. "The sun heart doesn't just bind them. It chooses who decides when the curse ends." Silence fell heavy. Sun Wu closed his eyes briefly. "That's not true." "It is," the stranger said softly, "and you know it." Amara felt the weight of the medallion settle deeper, like it was sinking into her very bones. Far out at sea, a single flare of golden light pierced the horizon. The black ship was moving again, and the sun was already on its way back. The horizon burned with the first hints of dawn, soft gold bleeding into the night sky, but the sea was restless, and so were the cursed. From the distance, the black ship's silhouette rose again, darker than shadow, gliding over waves as if the ocean itself parted in fear. Every sailor aboard Sunwoo's small boat froze, including Amara, her fingers tightening around the medallion that pulsed like a living heart. "Not much time," Sunwoo muttered, eyes scanning the waters. "They'll be fully mortal soon, and that means stronger, faster, unstoppable." Amara swallowed, heart hammering. Why me?" "Because you carry their tether. The sun heart chooses its keeper. You didn't steal it by accident. It chose you." The stranger's gaze swept over the approaching ship. "And they're coming for it." Before anyone could react further, a sudden wave rocked the small boat violently. A grappling hook slammed against the side, and a cursed pirate, fully mortal now, tried to climb aboard. Its golden scars dimmed, but the fire in its eyes burned brighter, fueled by vengeance. Sunwoo reacted instantly, slashing with his sword. The pirate hissed and ducked, blades flashing as they clashed. The stranger fired a pistol, the crack echoing over the waves. Red paint sprayed across the pirate's chest, but it didn't slow him. The fight was frantic, every movement a blur of steel and motion, and Amara realized for the first time how deadly this crew really was. She ducked behind the railing as another pirate jumped aboard from the water. The medallion flared, bright enough to sear the pirate's skin. It stumbled, giving her a fraction of a second to act. She kicked him backward with every ounce of strength she could muster. Sunwoo shouted, "Row! Row or we're dead!" The small boat surged forward, slicing through the choppy sea, but the black ship gained on them. Its hull was massive, cannon ports ready, sails glowing faintly with the sun's curse. The cursed crew had regrouped on deck, their movements eerily coordinated, shadows twisting as they moved across the ship. A cannonball screamed past the boat, splashing water high enough to drench Amara. She scrambled to keep her balance, eyes wide as another round followed. Sunwoo held the boat steady, his muscles straining. "Hang on!" he shouted. The stranger leapt forward, grabbing a fallen oar and using it like a spear. He jabbed at a pirate trying to climb from the water. The attack knocked the pirate off balance, but another took its place instantly. The cursed were relentless, and daylight or no, they fought with unnatural coordination. Amara clenched the medallion. Heat pulsed through her palm, almost painful, as if urging her to act. The cursed captain told her the sun heart chose the keeper. She didn't fully understand, but instinct told her she had to use it, or they'd all die. Suddenly, the black ship's figurehead glowed as sunlight struck the polished gold tips of its prow. A golden aura rippled across the water, and the cursed pirates on deck began to shimmer, almost like heat waves. Sunwoo's eyes narrowed. "They're using the sun," he said quietly. "The sun heart reacts to it. We can't fight them in its light." The boat approached a narrow reef that jutted sharply from the water, barely visible until they were upon it. Sunwoo navigated carefully, weaving between jagged rocks. Behind them, the black ship matched every turn, moving impossibly fast. Amara could see the captain on deck, standing tall, his scarred chest catching the sunlight. He raised one hand, and a wave of golden energy shot toward their boat. The water boiled where it struck, throwing them off balance. Amara grabbed her, pulling her down as the wave of energy hit. The boat shuddered, nearly tipping over, but Sunwoo held the tiller, teeth gritted. Amara's medallion pulsed violently in response. A streak of light shot from it, striking the water and causing the golden energy to shatter in midair. She cried out, stunned by the power she wielded. The cursed pirates hesitated, confused by the sudden interference. The captain's face twisted with anger. "So the girl finally understands," he bellowed. Sunwoo turned to her. "Use it, but be careful. It can burn you as easily as them." Amara focused, letting the medallion guide her. Golden light flared, shooting in arcs across the water, forcing cursed pirates to retreat. The black ship wavered, its aura flickering as though uncertain. The stranger gritted his jaw. "They're regrouping. This won't hold them long." From the jungle-lined shore, a new threat emerged. Rowboats full of mercenaries, hired swords, and traders from the port, all drawn by the chaos. They shouted, raising muskets and torches. Amara groaned. "It never ends." "No," Sunwoo said grimly, "because the sun heart doesn't just bind them, it draws them. Whoever wields it becomes their beacon." The black ship's captain roared and struck the water with his blade. Waves erupted, tossing the small boat violently. Sunwoo was thrown hard into the bow, cutting his arm on splintered wood. Amara screamed, firing the medallion again. The light burned across the surface, scattering mercenaries and cursed alike. Some pirates screamed as the golden energy struck them, now mortal enough to feel real pain. The small boat tipped dangerously. Sunwoo rolled, catching Amara just before she went overboard. They clung to each other as water rushed past. For a moment, neither moved. The roar of battle surrounded them, the black ship, the cursed pirates, and the mercenaries. But there was a brief pause, almost fragile. Then a shadow rose from the water, taller than a man, moving impossibly fast, gliding toward them with long, blackened limbs. Its eyes glowed gold, reflecting the first rays of sun. The cursed captain had sent his deadliest lieutenant, the one rumored to be able to tear through steel as though it were paper. Amara's heart stopped. Sunwoo growled, drawing his sword. "Hold on," he said, voice low. "This is going to hurt." The shadow lunged, and the medallion flared brighter than ever, sending a golden shockwave across the water. The lieutenant screamed, momentarily stunned. But it wasn't enough. The black ship loomed closer, the cursed captain grinning from above, and the sun began its ascent fully into the sky. The battle was far from over. The river of light from the sun heart pulsed against the cursed ship's magic, and Amara realized the truth with a jolt. Today, no one would leave alive unless she learned how to truly control it. Her fingers burned, but she gritted her teeth. "I'm not letting them win," she whispered. Sunwoo nodded grimly. "Then let's make them regret chasing us." The first real strike of the day, and the deadliest escalation yet, was about to fall. The shock wave from the sun heart faded, leaving the water churning violently. Steam rose where golden light had scorched the surface. For a heartbeat, everything stilled, like the world itself was holding its breath. Then, the black ship answered. Its cannons fired in unison. The sea erupted around the small boat, water and debris exploding skyward. The blast knocked Amara flat against the deck, the medallion slamming into her chest as she gasped for air. Wood splintered, the boat lurched hard to starboard, taking on water. Sunwoo staggered but stayed on his feet, grabbing the tiller with one hand while slashing a rope free with the other. "Bail, now!" The stranger seized the bucket and began scooping water furiously. Another cannonball screamed overhead, tearing through the air where Amara's head had been moments earlier. The black ship was no longer toying with them. On its deck, the cursed captain stood tall, coat snapping in the wind, sunlight crawling over his branded skin. His crew moved with terrifying purpose, hauling chains and strange sun-marked devices into position along the rails. "They're trying to pin us," the stranger shouted. "Force us into the open." Amara pushed herself upright, pain flaring through her ribs. The medallion pulsed wildly, reacting to the rising sun and the growing proximity of the curse. Heat crawled up her arm like fire ants under her skin. She looked out across the water and saw their escape. A cluster of small islands rose ahead, jagged and uneven, surrounded by shallow reefs and treacherous currents, too dangerous for large ships to navigate easily. "We can lose them there," she shouted. Sunwoo followed her gaze. "If we don't tear the boat apart first." He angled the tiller sharply. The small boat plunged toward the islands as another wave rolled in, lifting them high before slamming them down hard. Amara screamed as her spine hit the deck. The stranger barely kept his footing. Behind them, the black ship slowed, not out of caution, out of calculation. Smaller boats dropped from its sides, sleek, fast skiffs filled with cursed pirates whose skin now gleamed fully gold under the sun. Their wounds had closed, their eyes burned with renewed hunger. "They're splitting us," Sunwoo muttered. The skiffs fanned out, cutting off angles of escape, herding the small boat toward a narrow channel between two islands where jagged stone jutted just beneath the surface. It was a trap. Amara felt the sun heart throb painfully, like it was screaming a warning. She pressed a hand to her chest, breath coming fast. I can feel it. They're close enough. The curse, it's pulling. Then push back, hard. She hesitated. I don't know how. The first skiff rammed them. The impact threw the stranger overboard. He vanished beneath the water with a shout. No! Amara screamed. Sunwoo spun, slashing at a pirate who leapt onto the boat. Steel rang. The pirate laughed, sunlight glinting off his teeth, and struck back with brutal force. Amara crawled toward the edge, scanning the water desperately. Bubbles surfaced. Then the stranger burst back up, gasping, one hand gripping the side of the boat. A cursed pirate lunged toward him with a spear. Without thinking, Amara thrust the medallion forward. Light exploded outward. The spear shattered midair. The pirate screamed as the golden light burned through his armor and skin, blasting him backward into the sea. The recoil hit Amara like a hammer. She cried out, collapsing as pain tore through her arm and chest. The medallion seared her skin, leaving angry red marks where it touched. Sunwoo caught her just before she hit the deck. Easy, you're burning yourself. I don't care, Amara rasped. I won't let them take it. The stranger hauled himself aboard, soaked and shaken but alive. She can't keep doing that, he warned. It's draining her. Another skiff closed in from the left. Sunwoo made a split-second decision. He grabbed a coil of rope, tied it around his waist, and jumped. What are you doing? Amara screamed. Sunwoo landed hard on the skiff, crashing into two pirates. He moved like fury incarnate, blade flashing as he cut one down and kicked another into the water. The skiff spun wildly, colliding with the reef and splintering apart. But Sunwoo went down with it. The rope snapped tight, jerking the small boat sideways. Amara screamed again as she scrambled to keep her balance. The stranger grabbed the rope, muscles straining as he hauled with everything he had. Sunwoo burst back to the surface, gasping, and clung to the rope as they dragged him free. The black ship roared in anger. Its captain raised both hands. The sun answered. Light intensified unnaturally, pouring down in blinding brilliance. The sea shimmered gold. The cursed pirates howled in triumph as their power surged. Amara's sun heart pulsed violently, nearly knocking her unconscious. She screamed, clutching her chest as heat ripped through her body. The medallion wasn't just reacting anymore, it was demanding. Her vision blurred, the world narrowed to light and sound and pain. Through the haze, she heard Sunwoo shouting her name. She forced her eyes open. The black ship loomed impossibly close now, its hull towering over them. Grappling hooks flew, embedding in their boat. Chains rattled tight. They were being pulled in. Amara's breathing slowed suddenly, unnaturally, as if something deep inside her had taken over. The pain dulled, replaced by clarity, terrifying and calm. She stood. Sunwoo reached for her. Amara, don't. She didn't hear him. The medallion lifted from her chest, hovering inches above her skin. Golden symbols spun through the air around it, ancient and alive. The water around the boat stilled, flattening as if frozen in time. Every cursed pirate froze. The black ship creaked, straining. The cursed captain's eyes widened, not with fear, but with awe. So, he murmured, voice carrying across the water, the sun heart finally awakens. Amara raised her hand. The sun dimmed, not eclipsed, but bent. Light twisted, focusing into a single blazing column that slammed down between the two ships. The sea screamed as it boiled away, revealing dark stone beneath. The chains snapped. The skiffs shattered. Cursed pirates were hurled screaming into the water, their golden skin cracking like brittle glass. Amara collapsed to her knees, smoke rising from her arms. The black ship staggered backward, damaged but not destroyed. Its captain stared at her, expression unreadable. This changes nothing. You can't hold it forever. Sunwoo rushed to her side, catching her as she swayed. Amara, Stay with me." Her eyes fluttered open. "They're right," she whispered weakly. "I can feel it. The sun heart, it's wanting a choice." The stranger stared at her. What kind of choice? Before she could answer, a massive shadow moved beneath the water. Something enormous circled them, far larger than any skiff or ship. The sea bulged upward. From the depths rose a colossal shape wrapped in chains, etched with sun sigils, its eyes blazing gold as it broke the surface with a roar that shook the sky. The cursed captain smiled slowly. "Allow me to introduce you to what happens when the sun heart refuses to choose." The chained titan lifted its head, water cascading from its massive form, and turned its blazing gaze toward Amara. And the sun climbed higher. The chained titan roared again, a sound so deep it seemed to vibrate inside bone and blood. Waves rolled outward in violent rings, slamming into the nearby islands and sending birds screaming into the sky. The creature's massive arms strained against the glowing, sun-etched chains wrapped around its torso and limbs, each movement dragging sparks of golden light across its stone-like skin. Amara could barely breathe. The sun heart throbbed in her chest like a second, furious heart, each pulse sending fire through her veins. She felt a pull, stronger than anything before, like the titan was not just bound by the same power, but calling to her directly. Sun Wu planted his feet on the rocking deck, sword raised, eyes locked on the monster. "That thing isn't just guarding the curse," he said. "It is the curse." The stranger stared in stunned silence. "No," he whispered, "it's the executioner." The black ship drifted closer again, its hull scarred but intact, sails dark against the blazing sky. The cursed captain stepped forward to the very edge of the deck, coat fluttering like torn wings. "When the sun heart was stolen," he called, voice carrying unnaturally far, "the sea demanded balance, so it was given a judge." The titan's chains rattled as it leaned forward, water cascading from its shoulders. Its eyes burned brighter, locking onto Amara with terrifying precision. And it has found its answer. Without warning, the titan lunged. The sea erupted as one massive arm smashed down toward the small boat. "Down!" Sun Wu shouted. He tackled Amara just as the arm struck. The impact obliterated half the deck, sending wood and debris flying in all directions. The boat spun violently, nearly capsizing as water rushed in. The stranger was thrown against the mast with a sickening crack, collapsing in a heap. Amara screamed, pain flaring through her shoulder as she hit the deck hard. The sun heart flared in response, releasing a shockwave of golden light that deflected the titan's arm just enough to keep it from crushing them entirely. But it wasn't enough. The boat was dying. Water poured in faster than they could bail. The mast snapped, sails collapsing into the sea. The sound of splintering wood filled the air. Sun Wu dragged Amara to her feet. "We can't stay here," she cried. The titan reared back, chains groaning as it lifted both arms high. "There!" the stranger rasped weakly, pointing. Beyond the chaos, one of the jagged islands rose higher than the rest, its cliffs sheer and dark. At its center, a narrow inlet cut deep into the rock, a hidden cove, shadowed and tight. "If we can reach that inlet," he coughed, "the titan won't fit." The black ship surged forward, cannons already pivoting. Sun Wu grabbed the last remaining oar and shoved it into the water, steering what little remained of the boat toward the island. Amara clutched the stranger under one arm, the sun heart burning hot against her skin, as she stumbled forward. A shot fired. The shot struck the water beside them, blasting a wall of foam into the air and rocking the boat so hard it nearly flipped. Amara lost her footing, nearly tumbling overboard, but Sun Wu caught her wrist at the last second. Their eyes met, fear, trust, something deeper flickering between them even in the chaos. "Don't let go," he said. "I won't," she promised, voice shaking. The titan slammed both fists into the water, sending a towering wave racing toward them. Sun-woo turned the boat at the last second, angling it just right as the wave lifted them like a toy and hurled them forward. They shot into the narrow inlet at breakneck speed. Rock walls closed in on both sides, jagged stones scraping the remains of the hull. The boat finally gave up, slamming into the shallow shore and breaking apart beneath them. They were thrown forward into cold, shallow water. Amara surfaced, coughing, dragging herself onto the rocky shore. Sun-woo emerged beside her, soaked and bleeding from a cut above his brow. The stranger crawled after them, collapsing face down on the stone. Behind them, the Titan roared in frustration. Its massive form halted at the entrance of the inlet. It clawed at the stone, but the narrow passage held, for now. The black ship anchored just outside the inlet, looming like a predator waiting patiently for its prey. The cursed captain watched from the deck, hands clasped behind his back, utterly calm. "You can't hide forever," his voice echoed through the stone corridor. "The sun will rise higher, and when it does, the chains will loosen." The Titan's massive silhouette filled the mouth of the inlet as another chain shattered, golden fragments raining into the sea. Amara staggered to her feet, the sun heart burning like a miniature sun against her chest. Sun-woo rose beside her, sword in hand. The stranger stepped forward, eyes dark with secrets yet unspoken. And above them all, the sun burned brighter than ever, watching, waiting to see which fate Amara would unleash upon the world. The chain shattered with a sound like thunder splitting stone. Golden fragments scattered across the water, hissing as they sank, and the Titan surged forward, its massive shoulder forcing its way deeper into the inlet. Stone cracked and peeled away, chunks of rock tumbling into the sea as the narrow passage began to widen under brute force. Amara staggered backward as the heat intensified, sweat pouring down her face. The sun heart burned so fiercely now, it felt as if it would tear free from her chest. Every breath was thick with power and dread. "It's breaking through!" Sun-woo shouted. The stranger scanned the glowing carvings frantically. "There has to be a failsafe, something the old guardians left behind." The Titan's clawed hand scraped through the inlet, gouging deep furrows into the stone floor. Its eyes locked onto Amara again, brighter than before, filled not with rage, but with purpose. Judge, executioner, end. The black ship shifted outside, chains rattling as its crew prepared smaller boarding boats. The cursed captain watched intently, his expression sharpened by anticipation rather than fear. "Let it in," he called. "Let the world finally be decided." Amara pressed both hands to her chest and screamed as another vision struck her, clearer, sharper than before. She saw two paths unfolding like burning threads. In one, the Sunheart was destroyed. The Titan roared once and collapsed, turning to dust. The curse vanished, but so did the balance. The sun burned unchecked, seas dried, lands cracked. Humanity survived, barely. In the other, the Sunheart was passed willingly, not stolen, not hoarded, chosen. The Titan slept again, the curse faded slowly, the world endured, fragile, imperfect, but alive. Her knees hit the stone. "There's no victory without loss," she whispered. Sun-woo crouched beside her, gripping her shoulders. "Tell me what you need." She looked up at him, eyes glowing faintly gold. "I need someone who won't try to own it." The stranger froze. Sun-woo didn't hesitate. "Then don't give it to me." Amara blinked. "What?" "You know me," he said quietly. "I fight, I protect, but I would use it to end threats, to control outcomes. That's not what this is meant for." The Titan forced its head through the inlet, stone collapsing around it. Its roar shook the island, sending cracks racing up the cove walls. The stranger stepped forward, slowly. "Then give it to me." Sun-woo spun toward him. "Are you mad?" The stranger met Amara's gaze. "I was part of this curse. I helped steal the Sunheart years ago, thought I could bargain with the sea, with fate itself. When the curse fell, I ran. I've been running ever since." Amara's breath caught. You were on the black ship. I was, before I betrayed them, before I realized some power should never be held. The Titan lunged again, smashing a claw down inches from them, the shockwave throwing all three against the stone wall. Amara cried out as pain flared through her back. The cursed captain laughed, the sound echoing unnaturally. Listen to him, Sunbearer, a traitor begging for absolution. How poetic. Sunwoo pushed himself up, sword shaking in his grip. We don't have time for confessions. Amara struggled to her feet, heart pounding. The sun heart hovered again, light spiraling outward, illuminating the cove in blinding gold. She looked from Sunwoo to the stranger, then back at the Titan forcing its way in. She understood now. The choice wasn't about who deserved the power, it was about who would let it go. Amara reached for the medallion. The cursed captain's smile faded for the first time. Careful, he warned. Once chosen, the sun heart cannot be reclaimed. Amara stepped forward, stopping just before the Titan's massive shadow. She raised her hand and turned it inward. I choose no master, she said. The light exploded. A shockwave tore through the inlet, blasting water, stone, and air outward in a blinding surge. Sunwoo was thrown back hard, slamming into the far wall. The stranger skidded across the stone, barely managing to keep his footing. The Titan froze. Its chains flared white-hot, not breaking, but melting, sinking into its own stone flesh like sealing wax. The creature roared once, a sound filled not with fury, but release. Slowly, impossibly, it knelt. The sea stilled. Outside the inlet, the black ship shuddered violently. Cursed pirates screamed as their golden skin dulled, cracks spreading across their bodies. Some collapsed instantly, lifeless. Others clutched their chests in agony. The cursed captain staggered, grabbing the rail as the sunlight on his skin flickered erratically. "What have you done?" he snarled. Amara collapsed to her knees, gasping, smoke rising from her arms. The sun heart shattered into fragments of pure light that lifted into the air and drifted upward, dissolving into the sky like embers. The sun heart was gone. Sunwoo rushed to her side, catching her as she sagged. "Amara!" She smiled faintly. "It's over," she whispered. "The lock is sealed. The curse will fade." The stranger stared at the kneeling Titan in awe. And the judge? Amara's eyes fluttered open. It sleeps, until the world needs reminding again. Outside, the black ship began to sink. Its hull groaned, cracks splitting the dark wood as water poured in from every side. The cursed captain roared in fury, drawing his blade as he leapt toward the inlet, his form flickering between flesh and gold. Sunwoo stood, sword raised, placing himself between Amara and the narrowing entrance. "Run!" he told the stranger. "Get her out of here." The stranger hesitated only a second before lifting Amara into his arms. "Don't die," he told Sunwoo quietly. The cursed captain landed on the stone with a snarl, blade blazing with corrupted sunlight. "You think balance means mercy?" he hissed. "The sea remembers betrayal." Sunwoo met his charge head-on. Steel clashed, blades rang through the cove as the two men fought, sparks flying with every strike. The captain moved with unhuman speed, strength surging and fading unpredictably as the curse unraveled. Sunwoo was driven back step by step, boots scraping against stone, arms screaming with effort. Behind him, the stranger carried Amara deeper into the cove, toward a narrow passage glowing faintly with residual light. The Titan remained kneeling, unmoving, a silent god at rest. Sunwoo ducked a killing blow and slashed upward, cutting deep across the captain's side. Golden light spilled from the wound like liquid fire. The captain screamed, not in pain, but in rage. "You would doom us all for her?" he spat. Sunwoo's eyes burned. "I'd choose her over your curse every time." The captain raised his blade for the final strike. The ground shook. The Titan moved. One massive stone hand descended between them, slamming into the floor with earth-shattering force, cutting the captain off mid-swing. The shockwave knocked both men sprawling in opposite directions. The Titan's glowing eyes dimmed, then closed. Its body hardened, turning to unbreakable stone, sealing the inlet completely as the passage collapsed inward. Darkness swallowed the cove. Silence followed, and somewhere beyond the falling stone and sinking ship, the world took its first breath free of the sun's curse, unaware that the greatest cost was still yet to be paid. Silence settled over the shattered inlet like ash after fire. For a long moment, no one spoke. No waves crashed, no wind cut through the stone. The world felt paused, uncertain whether it was allowed to move again. Sun Wu lay on his back against the cold rock, chest rising and falling hard, sword still clenched in his hand. His ears rang, dust clung to his hair and lashes. He stared up at the cracked ceiling of the cove, half expecting it to collapse at any second. But it didn't. The Titan remained sealed, its massive stone form fused into the collapsed inlet like part of the island itself. Its glow was gone. Its presence felt distant, muted, as if it had retreated deep into sleep. The sea beyond was calm. Too calm. Sun Wu pushed himself upright. His muscles screamed in protest, but he ignored the pain and turned, heart hammering, searching. Amara. She lay a few steps away, cradled in the stranger's arms. Her skin looked pale against the dark stone, lips faintly parted, lashes fluttering. The golden light that had once pulsed from her chest was gone. No warmth radiated from her anymore, only an unsettling stillness. Sun Wu crossed the distance in 2 strides and dropped to his knees beside her. "Amara," he said again, softer now. "Hey, open your eyes." For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then she inhaled sharply, as if pulled back from the edge of something vast and cold. Her eyes opened, dark again, no trace of gold, and she coughed weakly. Sun Wu exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding and let out a broken laugh. He rested his forehead briefly against her shoulder. "You're still here," he whispered. She managed a faint smile. "Disappointed?" He shook his head, voice tight. "Never." The stranger eased her into a seated position against the rock wall. He looked exhausted, older somehow, the weight of the last hours etched into his face. "The seal is holding," he said quietly. "The Titan won't move again, not in our lifetime." Sun Wu glanced toward the collapsed inlet, where stone and shadow now formed an unbroken wall. "And the curse?" The stranger hesitated. Amara noticed. Her smile faded. "What aren't you saying?" He met her gaze, and something unreadable flickered there. Regret, fear, resignation. "The curse is broken," he said carefully, "but curses never disappear cleanly. They change shape." Before either of them could press him, a sound echoed through the cove, a distant groan. The sea beyond the stone barrier churned, sending a low vibration through the ground. Sun Wu shot to his feet, sword raised, body coiled, to fight again. But no attack came. Instead, water began seeping through the cracks in the stone, slowly at first, then faster, streaming down in thin rivulets that glimmered faintly in the light. The stranger frowned. "The tide's shifting." Amara pushed herself upright, leaning heavily against the wall. "That's not normal, not like this." They moved cautiously deeper into the cove, toward the narrow passage the stranger had spotted earlier, a vein of light cutting through the rock like a wound. As they approached, the air grew cooler, damp with salt and mineral. The passage opened onto the far side of the island. Sunwoo stepped out first, scanning the horizon. The black ship was gone. Not sunk, not drifting wreckage. Gone. Only scattered debris floated on the surface of the sea. Broken planks, coils of rope, the remnants of a nightmare erased. The cursed crew was nowhere to be seen. For the first time since this began, Sunwoo allowed himself to lower his sword. "It's over," he said quietly. The words felt fragile in his mouth, like they might shatter if spoken too loudly. Amara stepped out beside him, squinting against the daylight. The sun hung high above the horizon, brilliant and warm, but something about it felt wrong, too sharp, too present. She lifted her face to it and flinched. Sunwoo noticed immediately. "What is it?" She hesitated. "Nothing, just bright." The stranger emerged last, pausing at the threshold. He studied the sky for a long moment, jaw tightening. "We shouldn't linger. We need to leave the island." Sunwoo turned to him. "In what? Our ship is splinters." The stranger gave a thin smile. Not all ships were destroyed. They followed him along the rocky shoreline to a small cove on the island's far side. There, half hidden beneath overhanging stone, was a modest vessel, older, weathered, but intact. Its sails were furled, its hull scarred by years at sea. Sunwoo frowned. "You planned this." The stranger didn't deny it. "I hoped we wouldn't need it." They wasted no time. The tide was rising fast now, water climbing the rocks with unsettling speed. Sunwoo and the stranger worked together to push the ship free, while Amara sat near the bow, arms wrapped around herself. She felt cold, colder than she should under the blazing sun. Once aboard, they set sail quickly, catching the wind as the island began to recede behind them. The sea was eerily smooth, reflecting the sky like polished glass. For a few minutes, none of them spoke. Then Amara gasped. Sunwoo was at her side instantly. "What's wrong?" She pressed her hand to her chest, fingers trembling. "It feels like something is missing." The stranger closed his eyes briefly. Sunwoo turned on him, anger flaring. "You knew." "I suspected, but I couldn't be sure until now." Amara looked between them, fear creeping into her expression. "What?" The stranger met her gaze, and something unreadable flickered there. Regret, fear, resignation. "The curse is broken," he said carefully. "But curses never disappear cleanly. They change shape." Before either of them could press him, a sound echoed through the cove, a distant groan. The sea beyond the stone barrier churned, sending a low vibration through the ground. Sunwoo shot to his feet, sword raised, body coiled to fight again. But no attack came. Instead, water began seeping through the cracks in the stone, slowly at first, then faster, streaming down in thin rivulets that glimmered faintly in the light. The stranger frowned. "The tide's shifting." Amara pushed herself upright, leaning heavily against the wall. "That's not normal. Not like this." They moved cautiously deeper into the cove, toward the narrow passage the stranger had spotted earlier, a vein of light cutting through the rock like a wound. As they approached, the air grew cooler, damp with salt and mineral. The passage opened onto the far side of the island. Sunwoo stepped out first, scanning the horizon. The black ship was gone. Not sunk, not drifting wreckage. Gone. Only scattered debris floated on the surface of the sea. Broken planks, coils of rope, the remnants of a nightmare erased. The cursed crew was nowhere to be seen. For the first time since this began, Sunwoo allowed himself to lower his sword. "It's over," he said quietly. The words felt fragile in his mouth, like they might shatter if spoken too loudly. Amara stepped out beside him, squinting against the daylight. The sun hung high above the horizon, brilliant and warm, but something about it felt wrong, too sharp, too present. She lifted her face to it and flinched. Sunwoo noticed immediately. "What is it?" She hesitated. "Nothing, just right." The stranger emerged last, pausing at the threshold. He studied the sky for a long moment, jaw tightening. "We shouldn't linger. We need to leave the island." Sunwoo turned to him. "In what? Our ship is splinters." The stranger gave a thin smile. Not all ships were destroyed. They followed him along the rocky shoreline to a small cove on the island's far side. There, half hidden beneath overhanging stone, was a modest vessel, older, weathered, but intact. Its sails were furled, its hull scarred by years at sea. Sunwoo frowned. "You planned this." The stranger didn't deny it. "I hoped we wouldn't need it." They wasted no time. The tide was rising fast now, water climbing the rocks with unsettling speed. Sunwoo and the stranger worked together to push the ship free, while Amara sat near the bow, arms wrapped around herself. She felt cold. Colder than she should under the blazing sun. Once aboard, they set sail quickly, catching the wind as the island began to recede behind them. The sea was eerily smooth, reflecting the sky like polished glass. For a few minutes, none of them spoke. Then Amara gasped. Sunwoo was at her side instantly. "What's wrong?" She pressed her hand to her chest, fingers trembling. "It feels like something is missing." Dawn did not arrive gently. It tore its way up from the horizon in a violent wash of gold, spilling across the sea like molten fire. The light struck the deck of the ship, and Amara screamed. Her body convulsed as if caught in an unseen current, back arching, fingers digging into Sunwoo's coat. The warmth of sunrise felt like knives beneath her skin, heat flooding her veins, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Sunwoo held her tightly, panic clawing at his chest. "Stay with me, please, stay with me." The sea answered before she could. Waves rose suddenly, circling the ship in slow, deliberate spirals. The water glowed faintly, as if sunlight burned beneath its surface. The vessel rocked violently, timbers groaning under the pressure. The stranger spun the wheel, fighting the current. "This isn't natural," he shouted. "The sea feels her now." Amara's eyes flew open. They weren't gold. They were something deeper, like sunrise reflected through water, bright and endless. "I can hear it," she whispered, "calling." A shadow passed beneath the ship, then another. The water exploded upward as something vast broke the surface, a massive serpentine form, scaled like polished obsidian, eyes glowing with pale solar fire. Chains of light wrapped around its body, flickering in and out of existence as if struggling to hold. Sunwoo staggered back, sword raised. "What is that?" "The warden," the stranger said hoarsely. "Older than the Titan, older than the curse. It guards the boundary between sea and sun." The creature circled the ship, its massive head rising above the deck. When it spoke, the sound was not heard but felt, pressing directly against the mind. "The anchor awakens." Amara gasped, clutching her chest as pain surged again. "It wants me," she said, "to finish what was started." The warden's gaze fixed on her. Balance was broken. Balance demands a bearer. Sunwoo stepped between them without hesitation. "You don't get to take her." The creature regarded him with something like curiosity. "You would deny the world its order for one life?" "Yes," Sunwoo said, voice shaking but firm. "Every time." The sea surged, waves slamming into the hull. The warden drew closer, light flaring along its chains. "Then the world will take its price elsewhere." The sky darkened abruptly. Clouds rolled in at impossible speed, swallowing the sun, plunging the sea into an unnatural twilight. The wind howled, tearing at the sails. Lightning split the sky, striking the water so close it showered the deck in sparks. The stranger fought the wheel, teeth clenched. If she doesn't choose soon, the sea will choose for her. Amara struggled to her feet, barely standing. Each breath felt like fire. She looked at Sunwoo, really looked at him, at the fear he tried to hide, at the love he no longer tried to deny. I never wanted to be special. I just wanted to live. Sunwoo grabbed her hands. Then live with me. We'll run if we have to. We'll hide. There's nowhere to hide from the sun, she whispered. Another wave slammed the ship, throwing them apart. Amara fell hard against the rail, crying out as the pain spiked again, worse this time. Her vision blurred, the world warping around her. The warden lifted higher, coiling above the ship like a living storm. Choose, it demanded. Bind yourself to the sea and calm the tides forever. Bind yourself to the sun and steady the sky. Refuse, and balance will be taken in blood. The stranger staggered toward Amara. If she binds to the sea, she'll lose her body, her memories. She'll become legend, whispered, never seen. And the sun? She asked weakly. You'll burn, he said quietly, slowly, until there's nothing left. Sunwoo's chest tightened until he could barely breathe. No, he said again desperately. There has to be another way. Amara looked past him, to the horizon, where darkness and light fought for control of the sky. I see it now, she murmured. Why the curse existed. Why the sun heart was never meant to stay in one place. She turned back to him, tears slipping free. I was never meant to keep it. I was meant to become the bridge. Before Sunwoo could stop her, she stepped forward, straight toward the warden. The sea went silent. Amara raised her hands, palms open. I choose neither, she said, voice steady despite the pain tearing through her. I choose balance. The warden recoiled slightly. There is no such path. There is, she said. If I don't belong to one, I belong to both. Light erupted from her body, not blinding, not violent, but warm and expansive. The sea glowed beneath her feet, lifting her gently from the deck. The clouds above parted, sunlight pouring down in a single column that enveloped her completely. Sunwoo shouted her name, reaching for her, but his hands passed through light. Amara looked down at him one last time. I love you, she said. The words hit him harder than a blade. The light surged. The warden roared, not in anger, but in recognition, as the chains around his body dissolved into pure radiance. The storm collapsed inward, the wind dying instantly. The sea stilled. Then Amara was gone. The light faded. She was not there. The warden sunk beneath the surface without another sound, the water closing over it as if it had never been. The sun rose fully into a clear sky. Silence. Sunwoo fell to his knees, the world hollowing out around him. He stared at the place where she had vanished, breath coming in broken gasps, hands clenched so tightly his knuckles bled. The stranger approached slowly, grief etched deep into his face. She chose the only path that saved everything. Sunwoo didn't look at him. At what cost? The stranger had no answer. Days passed. The sea remained calm. The sun burned steady and gentle. Tides moved as they should. Storms came and went without devastation. The world healed. But Sunwoo did not. He sailed alone after that, refusing ports, refusing company. He followed the currents, chasing rumors of golden lights beneath the waves, of voices carried on the wind at dawn and dusk. Years passed. Legends grew. They spoke of a sea-sun guardian, neither god nor ghost, a presence felt when balance wavered, a warmth in the cold, a calm after storms. Most dismissed it as myth. Sun Wu never did. One morning, long after the world had moved on, he stood at the bow of his ship as dawn broke quietly over the horizon. The light touched the water, and for just a moment, he heard her voice, not in his mind, on the wind, soft, familiar. Sun Wu. His breath caught. The sea shimmered faintly gold, and far beneath the surface, something ancient smiled. If stories like this keep you watching, hit the subscribe button and stay with us for what comes next.